Hello everyone, I am Pragya Srivastav. I am here to record a lecture on VLSI technology. Presently, I am discussing its unit 2, that is epitaxy and oxidation. In my previous lecture, we have studied what is epitaxy, and we have also studied what are the different methods to grow epitaxial layer. So those different methods include vapor phase epitaxy, liquid phase epitaxy, and molecular beam epitaxy. So of course, we have discussed the first two. And now in my today's lecture, I am going to discuss the third method, which is molecular beam epitaxy, and it is also known as MBE. Now, MBE is a physical evaporation process with no chemical reaction involved in it. So here we see it's completely a physical process, and there are no chemical reactions which are involved in this. So what happens in this? Actually, it is a physical process, and the basic difference between molecular beam epitaxy and other epitaxial method is only this, that the remaining are chemical reactions, reactions involved in the remaining process, but in this no chemical reactions are involved. Now, it is a low temperature process and leads to minimization of auto-doping process. So it leads to intermixing of dopants, and it has a precise control on doping because there is no chemical reaction. So what amount of growth you want, and what amount of doping concentration do you want, so you can very easily monitor and control these things. The growth rate can be achieved as small as 0.01 microns per minute. So we see, and it ranges from this to 0.3 micron per minute. So it's a growth rate which we can see from molecular beam epitaxy. Another, it is an epitaxial process involving reaction of one or more thermal beams. Now, what are these thermal beams? These beams will be consisting of atoms or molecules that we want to deposit on the wafer. Let's imagine a prototype case. Let's imagine it's a wafer susceptor wherein we have put this wafer. On that wafer, we need a epitaxial growth. So this is what is required. So what we are going to do in molecular beam epitaxy, we will place some effusion cells, and we will fill these cells with the materials which we want to grow. There will be an opening here, and of course there will be a shutter here. So this shutter will periodically open, and then a beam of atoms will come and enter the wafer. So this is how the process goes on. Of course, we do need a control system which will monitor the opening and closing of the shutter. So this is all what is happening. And one more thing, we also need to move this wafer susceptor up and down so that the equal and uniform growth of the epitaxial layer takes place. So here we can call it one or more thermal beam of molecules or atoms with a crystalline surface under high vacuum conditions. Now, molecular beam epitaxy can achieve precise control on both chemical compositions and doping profiles. Single crystal multilayer structure with dimensions of the order of the atomic layer can be made using molecular beam epitaxy. So it is that precise, it is that particular. This is a prototype this is a basic example of a molecular beam epitaxy apparatus. You can see that here is the effusion cell like this one. So the complete setup has been, let's say we can imagine it has been rotated like this. Now we can see it, here is the wafer, okay, and this one is the wafer susceptor, or we are calling it holder, and it is the beam of molecules which is falling on the substrate. And here is the sublimation pump, and it is the turbomolecular pump, and we can see it's a mechanical shutter here. Mechanical shutter, sometimes it goes off, allowing the molecules to settle on the wafer. Sometime it is on when it is not allowing the molecules to enter the wafer. So here is the viewing port, and it is the ionization gauge, heating shield. So this is a typical example. We have certain new diagrams and updated ones. This one, as I have discussed, these are the effusion cells. Effusion cell 1, 2 and 3. These are the 3 effusion cells ejecting different types of atoms and molecules. And this is, this is the substrate, or we can call wafer. And this is the substrate heater. And here we can see that these are the beams of required material. This gray thing is the shutter, which periodically allows the molecules to enter and leave. Now, this is the real-time diagram, and we can see a monitor screen here. This is a real-time diagram, and these are the different effusion cells using which we are actually growing materials and epitaxial layer. This is an industry level, highly cubed and ultimate level of precise and control on epitaxial growth. This is another example. We have included several diagrams only to make the viewer comfortable with different types of patterns. Now, here we are having effusion cells. They are here in this picture. We are having 4 effusion cells. 1, 2, 3 and 4. And this is, the black thing. This black thing is the wafer. And this thing is the principal shutter. This thing are independent shutters. And of course, we have a motor. And this motor rotates this shaft like this, and this shaft. This is again another diagram of molecular beam epitaxy. We have included several diagrams only to make the viewers comfortable with different types of molecular beam epitaxy apparatus. Again, in this picture, we can see we have 4 effusion cells. Likewise, in the previous picture, we had only 3. Now, and this is the shutter. And one more thing which we are having in this one is the principal shutter. Principal shutter is altogether shielding the wafer itself. Now, this is the wafer holder, and this black strip is the wafer itself. This black strip is wafer itself. There is a motor which controls the movement of the shaft in these 2 directions, and then we have a window here using which viewers can see what is happening inside and have a clear picture of and monitor the clear picture instead. And we have another window for the same apparatus. Growth rate is faster in vapor phase epitaxial layer, approximately 1 microns per minute. It leads to difficulty in growth of the thin layer. Now, so boundary layer or stagnant layer, we have studied the undesired segment, undesired part of vapor layer, vapor phase epitaxial process. These things are, absent in molecular beam epitaxy. So we are out of these troubles. Now, molecular beam epitaxy is very costly and sophisticated equipment. We have seen, like this picture itself depicts that how precise and how costly it would have been. In molecular beam epitaxy, the layer which we want to deposit should be the layer which we want to deposit should be evaporated, and this evaporation is done under high vacuum condition. This is to minimize the contamination process. Now, this molecular beam epitaxy is always done under very high vacuum conditions, and like this is for silicon MBE, it is done at a vacuum condition of approximately 10 raised to the power minus 8 to 10 raised to the power minus 10 tau. The heat of MBE system is basically the ultra high vacuum pumping. When we achieve the ultra high vacuum condition inside, we have to evaporate the particular species. In this case, like we are studying for silicon, let's say it has a very high melting point, like the melting point of silicon is like this. So it's very difficult, it's very tough to do this thermal heating. So what will happen is electron beam is focused on silicon source and silicon is evaporated. So instead of heating it and doing it, we just use with the help of electron beam. There are two pumps which are used because this ultra high vacuum is utmost important. These two vacuum pumps are used to achieve, they are the high vacuum is almost impossible to achieve by using only single pumping system. So we are using two pumps. Commonly, we are not talking about ultra high vacuum. The type of pumps we use, a single thermal evaporation system, for example, that will be rotatory pump or diffusion pump. Both these pumps will use oil, and particularly diffusion pump will use oil. For MBE, diffusion pump rarely preferred because of its oil vapor. So a holder or crucible is used to hold a silicon, as we have shown in the figure above. An electron gun is also used for the source of electron beam. Electron beam is focused on silicon source, and from their silicon is getting evaporated to the canonical shape in order to introduce the dopant diffusion cells. An effusion cell is nothing but the boxes where we have kept the atoms or molecules which we want to deposit. An effusion cell is again a dopant holder which is heated, and there is a small opening at the mouth of this effusion cell through which a jet of evaporated dopant come out. Now we have to study what is silicon on insulator. All silicon devices structure has inherent problems. Those are associated with its parasitic circuit element arising from junction capacitance. Now the effect becomes more severe when the devices are smaller and when we are talking about miniaturization. To overcome this problem, we just fabricate the device in small space of silicon on an insulating material. The initial approach to fabricate such structure was to grow epitaxial silicon on a substrate of sapphire. Now this is sapphire on MgAl2O4. This is also called silicon. Now since the substrate material differs from the layer, the process is termed as heteroepitaxy. In this layer, we can see that it's an insulating material here. On that insulating material, we are just making this patch here, and we are just ensuring the three terminals: source, drain, and gate. And of course, these are N+ body contacts. The process and the equipment used for silicon on sapphire epitaxy are essentially identical to those employed for homoepitaxial growth. The chemical reaction which is involved is SiH4 gives out Si plus 2H2O. So here silane is used as a source of silicon. Hydrogen gas is used as a carrier gas. The common deposition temperature is around the range of 1000 degrees to 150 degrees and growth rate will be 0.5 microns. So here we can say that the film thickness are on the order of 1 micron or less with film doping of the range of 10 raised to the power 14 to 10 raised to the power 16 atoms per cubic centimeter. Now what is silicon on amorphous substrate? Silicon on insulator, which we have recently studied, is a recent or non-epitaxial approach to provide single crystal silicon. With this technology, amorphous or polycrystalline silicon is recrystallized into an amorphous substrate. Now we can see a setup for recrystallization using a strip heater. The process is considered non-epitaxial because the silicon film here is not a single crystal as deposited. So energy for the process can be supplied by electron beam or laser. The recrystallized layers are potentially equal to the homoepitaxial silicon. Here we know that silicon on insulator is used in VLSI, photovoltaic solar cells, and conservation and three-dimensional ICs. Here is again the diagram which we have discussed in the previous section. We can see it has a movable strip heater. We talked about strip heater. Here we have a movable strip heater. On that, just below that, we have a lower strip heater. In between, we have a silicon substrate, and these are the various, you know, SiC, Si3N4, SiO2, and there is a polysilicon film, and there is a SiO2 mask as well. So this is how things are done. Now we are moving ahead on oxidation. Oxidation is a process where the most general use of oxidation is to mask during dopant incorporation. How to get rid of, how to come out of mask during dopant incorporation. So in general, oxide is an insulator and protect the certain regions through which we cannot, you know, we do not want any doping to take place. So in this case, how oxidation will help us, we will study. We can open some windows in the oxide through this doping will take place. So oxide layer can be used as a mask for fabrication process. It can be used for surface passivation, generally used to protect junctions on silicon on substrate. Now what happens? It is for device isolation. This is the major purpose. This is the major purpose of oxidation. Device isolation provides insulation between the two devices. It can be used as gate oxide for MOSFET devices. Now we have to study that we need for a MOSFET. Let's say this is a MOSFET and this is a drain region, this is a source region, and this below is the channel region. So we have two types of region. One is the channel region where we need thin oxide, and other is the remaining region, let's say, that is other than the channel regions, and other than the channel region, let's say this is the region which I have just inked with blue, will be a portion where thick oxides can be used. What is thermal oxidation? Thermal oxidation is a process that alters the chemical composition of a silicon wafer. Through this process, the surface of the wafer is converted into silicon dioxide, which has different mechanical and electrical properties than the raw silicon. Now what happens? Oxide film thickness is measured in nanoscale regime. In nanoscale, it is of the order of nanoscale. Here we see that the thickness range from 100 to 300 angstrom. The tolerance is plus minus 5%, and it is better in many cases. It's like better tolerance can have. And the dry oxide, the wet oxide, and the combined wet and dry processing can be achieved. Certificate of analysis we can be made available, and we can see there is a real-time diagrams. Here we have a brush, or we can say a wafer holder, and on that wafer holder we can place different wafers. Let's imagine these are different wafers. These are the different wafers. Now, in between these consecutive wafers, there is a sufficient space, and in those space we just allow the gases to pass through, and with the passage of those gases there will be a set of chemical reactions, and those set of chemical reactions will yield the required product, and the required resultant gas will settle down on the surface of wafer, leading to a formation of SiO2 layer on the top of the wafer. Here is the diagram. We can see oxidation over silicon interface. So it is oxide on silicon. In the left hand side diagram, we can see that here it is just silicon. It's a silicon bar, or we also call it wafer. So on that wafer, we have successfully placed a layer of silicon dioxide. So this is silicon dioxide, this is silicon, and the process is oxidation. and the purpose is insulation or we sometimes call it isolation. So the basic aim and how the flow of the process goes on like this. Initially, we have to prepare a wafer. To prepare a wafer, we have went through number of process, like we have extracted raw silicon from nature. We have converted into MGS. After we had MGS, we had done some chemical reactions and we have obtained what is EGS, electronic grade silicon. After we have got this electronic grade silicon, we have made a wafer, and the wafer was made using Krozalski's process. Using CZ crystal grower, we have achieved a wafer. Now after we have a wafer, we have grown, we have achieved a epitaxial layer on the top of the wafer. Now, after this epitaxial layer is achieved on the top of the wafer, the next big thing which comes into picture is oxidation. Now, oxidation is the next fabrication step. Here we see it is a process. Oxidation process is chiefly used to form silicon dioxide. Previously we have seen it is silicon dioxide. Thin oxide, gate oxide layer. Thick oxide, field oxide layer. I have already discussed this thing. Thin oxide and thick oxide layer. Gate oxide layer is a thin film under which a conducting channel is formed, and this conducting channel will be called as source and drain. Field oxide layer will be a thicker layer, and gate oxide will be a thinner layer. Semiconductors can be ionized by various methods: thermal oxidation, electrochemical anodization, plasma reaction. Among these methods, thermal oxidation is by far the most important and most practiced method. We will discuss more on oxidation in my next lecture. Thank you.